All right, welcome once again. It is Tuesday and we're going to tap into another line of webinars. This time a cross section between what we've been doing on retail and with our partners from us2. We're into webinar number 4. Today's going to be about the post-COVID-19 retail consumer, and we're just going to dive right into it. So with me today is, well, first of all from us2, Jason, and later I'm going to introduce a special guest also joining. My name is Martin Simonsen. I am head Implement. I'm heading up B2C industry work. I've been working with retail over the last 15 years. And Jason, on the other side.
Hi, I'm Jason DePonte from us2. I'm strategy principal here, and I work a lot with our design strategy, product strategy, and opportunity discovery projects. And I've been with us2 for the last 4 years and very excited to be joining today. Thanks.
Thank you, Jason. With us later also, I'm going to be joined by our Kenneth Nørgaard. Kenneth is what I would call the CEO of a digital native company, and today we are going to be talking about the new customer. I think at least for Kenneth, he's one of the people hoping that the COVID brings something very, very popular in roughly 9 months. Let's see that hypothesis come through. Nevertheless, he's also running a company which are digital by birth, new parents, typically aged 27 to 32 years old. Baby Sam has been on a tremendous journey now with a huge increase in online sales. They've seen how these differences in channels have moved about. They've seen how things are moving mobile. They're getting all the kinds of feeling of how consumers are changing their behaviors and their needs out there. So Kenneth will join us later, and we'll have a conversation about how he sees the world evolving. Also, we'd just be happy to know who are with us as always. So as we continue along, please put in your name and your company within the chat function, so we get a feeling of who's out there. So if you would please do that and be much kind. And again, it's a pleasure. We do see you as you kind of joining in here a little bit later. We do have people not just getting up in the Nordic countries.
Hey, Jason.
We have again people from all the way from the US into the UK, into the Nordics, from the jewelry. Good to see you again, Maria, from Louis Poulsen, into furniture and whatnot. Fantastic to have a lot of people on board. I'm going to move along. Won't have time to introduce you all, but thank you very much for joining in here for the next half an hour. As we go along, please also feel free to start up the Q&A, just posting questions as we go along. You can put questions to both Jason, I, and Kenneth, and we'll try to do our best at the very end. We'll stay on for as long as you need, at least another half an hour, to answer any questions that might come up. But let's get started. I think when we look into to this crisis, this pandemia, I think at least we've seen this as being a catalyst of change. I think this overnight disruption, as we've seen within the customer behavior and the channel utilization, maybe it's pinpointed the weak points that were already there, or it has accelerated the need to actually think different. And I think the conversations we've had over the last webinars is also the learning of what the faster that we adapt, we will in fact also experience growth. So we've said that a few times. I think that's still very true, but today it is going to be about the customer behavior and understanding really how to capture what they're looking for. We hope to achieve 3 things throughout the next half an hour. One is to kind of leave you with a little bit of best practice from both us2 and Implement, some tangible actions you can actually go back and do. Leave you with some learnings as we've seen them out there, learning about the customer as we see for the future, and then hopefully also with a lot of inspiration as Jason goes on. So what are we seeing others already doing out there in the market? So we've broken this agenda into 3 parts. I'm going to be talking a little bit about trying to introduce who is the new customer. And with that in mind, we're going to move in saying, so if we believe this to be the future customers, how are we actually engaging? How are we reacting? How have we rebounded? And are we starting to reimagine how things could look like to be relevant? And then again, we're going to have a conversation with Kenneth and kind of have a conversation about how does it feel to be relevant to a customer base which are truly digital natives. So let's get started on the first part. And it's kind of a thing, if you said A, you need to do B kind of conversation, meaning that If you accept what I'm going to spend roughly just the next 2-3 minutes talking about being the new market and customer dynamics, it is essential that we also truly understand the DNA of the new customer. We understand what is driving their needs and how can we actually tap into that and make sure that they end up going shopping at our side. So I'm going to be talking about these 2 points. First of all, clearly it's different waters ahead, right? We've talked about the COVID. We're still waiting to see the response coming out of that. And I think at least from our point of view, most likely we will see a recession follow in the wakes of this. It might differ how much that's going to hit you as retailers out there, depending on the industry that you're operating in. But one thing is clear, the share of wallet, the spending in general will go down, which means competition will be harder and we need to be even more relevant than ever. I think the new market dynamic, we've been talking about it for a long time. I think now we need to accept that the new customer are tapping into one market. They want to be able to move freely across channels. They want to be able to be recognized. They want it personalized. They want to make sure that we are relevant for them wherever they are and what channel. So it's a one market dynamic we're tapping into. And it's a market driven by the digital native. So we truly believe the behaviors we're going to present to you in just a little bit, they are going to be characterized as the way shopping is going to look like in the next years to come. It's also something come up where the lockdown has made us worry more. And we see especially the digital natives, the young population, they're the ones who worry the most, which again will influence the way that we spend money. It's also about buying more online. In the last webinars, we've seen retailers as much, it's going up 400% online. And clearly is that there will be a new normal to how online is done. And the whole business model around online is going to be critical. And then let's just remind ourselves about some of the things. The journey will start online. The in-store experience will still matter. In general, the experience across home, on the go will matter. They want it convenient. They want it personal. They definitely want the flexibility to buy wherever and whenever they want. And they don't just want a friction-free experience. They want an experience that's time well saved. If they give us the time, we need to be relevant. They want fast order fulfillment and they want smart tracking. They want to know whenever they can get the products that they just purchased in their hands. And maybe while these things are not new, and Jason's going to come back on this, this has been accelerated to an extreme, that meaning if we are not there yet, we need to speed up and get there. What we also need to know about, which might maybe a little bit different, is that these digital natives, they're shopping in micro moments. It's less of a planned journey. It's more about shopping in the moment where you are, whenever you are, on whatever platform you kind of operate, mostly mobile, but they are shopping in micro moments. And then they have a significantly different value curve. And I don't even think we have the full answer to how that looks like, because that is changing. If that's being touch-free, sustainability, how does that all mix and match? And how are these new customers tapping into this? So this is how we see the world. This is how we see the market dynamic. And again, if this is the market dynamic and you just have a little bit belief in that is in fact the truth, we need to talk about what is the DNA. And we used to kind of distinguish between who are the digital natives and who's a digital immigrant. But I think the conclusion is now, this is not a generation thing. This is a population thing and it's only increasing. And COVID, coming out of this crisis has pretty much made everyone a digital native, young and old, whatever kind of demographic we're looking at. So I want to show you a little bit of some work done with our partners at WD also, which is a survey that's telling us about what is important for the customers. So as you read through these numbers, you have to imagine that this is from a 1 to 10 scale. And if they kind of mark it as a 9 or 10 being very important, it counts in the statistics. So as you see the statistics, if it goes between 30 and 40, it means as a customer, I'm willing to try it out. If it goes above 40, it means I'd like it to be part of my experience. And if it goes above 50 all the way to 60, it is, I want it and I won't shop without it. So just bear in mind when you see some of these numbers as we go through. First one being the easy self-checkout. That can be mobile, RFID and whatever, but wanting easy self-checkout. If you look at the numbers here, what we saw earlier was that only 33% of digital immigrants saw that as an important part, whereas 57% of digital natives. So it's important to them. And if they have a choice comparable, they will always choose the retailer who offers this. Mobile shopping, we see as much as 51% of digital natives saying we want that to be a part of it again. So all given, if you don't offer mobile shopping, you will lose out on the digital native. Click and collect, the opportunity or on the go, as we've seen through this crisis, explode. Again, looking at the numbers, both digital immigrants and digital natives as far as 65%, again, meaning if you can't offer this and someone else does, I will choose their business over yours. The online and media, the online reviews, the opportunity to push reviews out there, we see 64% among digital natives being a key important part. And then I think one thing worth mentioning as we move into social media in general as a traffic driver, we see as much as 81% among digital natives that they actually value the social media content, their friends and the general opinion in their shopping. So we need to make sure that we tap into the new channels of what we do. And finally, maybe just as a last stat, 76% of digital natives say that they're addicted to some kind of digital device. So are we tapping into that? Are we really capturing the future of digital devices? So we've seen these two curves kind of move along. I think the digital native already surpassed the digital immigrants before the COVID, but that's now just exploded coming out of this. And the future customer is no longer a digital native or digital immigrant. We need to think and have a digital mindset of what we do. So that was just a little bit of a speed through talk on where do we see the market? What are the market dynamics? Who do we believe to be the new customer? What is the DNA? And clearly, I think for many of you out there, it's time to change. So I think just before handing over to Jason, is going to put a little bit more emphasis to what's happening out there, I want to ask you a question. So with this small picture of who are the new customer out there, what have you done to be ready to meet them? From scaling not at all, I've done a little bit to some degree, or I've done very much to be relevant for the digital customer. So we're just going to launch the poll, and please make your pick out there. So it should be coming up on your screens. So it's pretty interesting. I roughly did more or less the same poll with a little bit few statistics a month ago, where we actually had a lot in not at all. So I think maybe what it's showing right here, we're just going to give it another 5 seconds and we'll share it on screen. Yeah, so we'll share it now. So what we actually see here is now that a number of you out there, of course, maybe I should have rephrased that question, because to some degree that offers up for everything, but at least we are working actively of being relevant out there. The question is, of course, how much, and are we moving to the point where we are more relevant than competition? So thank you very much for that. I think with that in mind, Jason, I'm gonna hand over to you so we can get a little bit more crisp on the content.
Yeah, Martin, thank you for that. What I'm going to be trying to do is talk you through this framework that you see in front of you as a way of bringing to life some examples of companies that are already using that digital native mindset, that are already embracing the statistics, embracing the data that Martin presented, and help you see some real world examples of those. So we just saw how many of you think that you're already doing something in this space, and that's great. And the way that we are proposing to think about thinking through the world in and post the crisis is to think through reacting, rebounding, and reimagining. And when we say react, we're thinking about what we can do to reassure and comfort customers, to continue to build the relationship that we have with them. When we talk about rebounding, we're thinking about how can we quickly rebound using the digital technology to adjust to new expectations, reduce costs, and increase revenue. And reimagine is thinking about, what are the exciting new futures that can come out of this if we really, really embrace a digital first mindset and digital first way forward. So I'm going to talk a little bit about React in some more detail. In the React phase, we see companies needing to do 3 really important things. One is providing clarity in a world of uncertainty that helps comfort their customers, inviting them to be part of a community that helps them feel togetherness when they might be feeling quite lonely, and being able to quickly repurpose things that are familiar to customers that don't require the companies to do too much in order to meet the new needs that the customer has. I'm going to show you some examples of that now. So Co-op is one of the largest convenience food retailers in the UK, and Us2 was working with them before the coronavirus crisis descended on us, to help them create a platform that was helping community groups to get help from the communities that they were within. And working together with them, we were able to pivot very quickly, and turn that platform into something that actually helped customers who were shielding, who were isolating, to be able to get food from the co-op with the help of people in their community. And by doing that very quick pivot, co-op has been able to provide reassurance, engage with thousands of customers across the UK, and seem incredibly relevant and seem incredibly in tune with their customers' needs. That's something we've been very proud to be involved with, and that's been providing great results. Lidl, another example, in Ireland, they used WhatsApp, a very, very widespread, very easy to use technology, to create a very simple interface where customers could say when they were looking to shop and get back information about how crowded and therefore how safe or unsafe it would be for customers to go into the store then. And that just shows, again, Lidl being able to say, we're here for you, we know what's going on, we're working to keep you safe, we're spreading the public health information that's out there. Looking at rebounding, again, 3 things that we think are important to keep in mind here. Contactless is just going to become more and more important. It's going to become the expectation. People are afraid of disease transmission much more so now. Companies are being able to embrace low-tech platforms that help them keep trading, help them keep doing business quickly and remotely, and in ways that they didn't expect. And also local companies going digital and starting to act much more in line with the global leaders and the digital leaders that are out there to make sure that they can serve digital natives who might not have had a tolerance for not having those experiences. So Headed South is an example where Us2 was able to work with Google Solly technology in order to create a game that you play on your mobile that's completely gesture-based. So no need to touch the screen. And we think that this is something that can bring new experiences in the retail environment with retail screens, where you don't have to touch a check-in screen to check into a building potentially, or create experiences like Amazon Go, which is the completely contactless, checkout-free retail experience that Amazon has been piloting over the last couple of years. We think gesture is particularly exciting and important because it does something that's a lot more personal and emotive potentially, to be able to interact in a human way rather than in a machine-to-machine sort of way. So we think that's going to be really exciting. This example comes from Germany, Lokaler Kaufen, and this is a platform that allows local merchants, local retailers to immediately offer video shopping to customers who are near to them. So again, it's meeting that expectation that digital natives would have, that they can have a video-driven experience, but like in this case you see in the picture, with the local baker, not only with giant multinational retailers. And this is a plug-and-play type of platform that just about anyone could use. And then finally, this is another example of a platform that's aiding local retailers. This is Bookshop in the US, which is connecting local bookstores and providing them with the fulfillment and sales platform that they need to be able to compete with potentially Amazon. But the other interesting part of this opportunity is that there's a big platform opportunity here, right? So Bookshop as a platform is helping the bookstores, but also has a very innovative business model in and of itself, where it's working on building revenue from affiliate sales and from the network effect it gets from the thousands of retailers that are joining it. And finally, looking at Reimagine, this is probably something that maybe some of you have in the planning phases, but that's accelerating now because of coronavirus. We think it's becoming incredibly important for customers to be able to have more immersive shopping experiences when they're online. They don't want to just look at a catalog. They want to really, really understand what it is they're buying. And there's very exciting new ways of doing that coming forward. We're seeing the last mile change as well. And that's both through service opportunities of getting goods to customers' homes quickly and safely, and also driven by hardware opportunities that I'll talk about a little bit in a second. So in this case, we've seen Secret Sofa reimagine itself And Secret Cinema reimagined itself as Secret Sofa. So Secret Cinema was a live location-based cinema events company, and they've reinvented themselves as Secret Sofa, which is an on-demand at-home video platform that they're actually selling tickets to because they're still creating the events. They're selling tickets to after parties that you can see here, where people are dressing up in costumes, immersing themselves at home, but together online, and also being able to link up with retail sponsorship and partnerships like Haagen-Dazs, where they were able to do a bespoke activation that they called Haagen Doors. So very quickly switching from an events company to basically a broadcasting company. Then we've also seen the emergence of delivery robots as a sort of leading indicator of what might be coming. So the relationship between humans and robots for delivery and other purposes has been something that's taken a while to take off. It's been out there for a while. Whether or not customers, companies, municipalities are comfortable with that, not that clear. But here you can see an example of Starship Technologies, who have an app and a robot delivery network running in the UK in one city. They've done over 100,000 orders already using these little robots and a very simple shopping app. And we see Amazon piloting that type of technology in America as well. And this lets retailers meet the demand for the increased demand for delivery, but also safer, sanitized deliveries that don't put staff or customers at risk of infection. And finally, I wanted to put this one in. This is a company called Essentium, who were printing PPE protective equipment using 3D printing and delivering that in the United States very quickly to where it was needed. And just as a sort of thought starter, put this in to say, you know, what types of changes can we make in the last mile? How can we change fulfillment if we can get 3D printing hubs close to where our customers are and rapidly manufacture goods for them? So just wrapping that up, here's a reminder of the React, Rebound, and Reimagine framework that we put forward. And if you stick around till the end, we're going to actually give you a little bit of a framework for you to be able to start evaluating yourself to see how far into that you are and how ready you are to meet the new challenges in the retail environment that Martin and I have been talking about.
Thank you, Jason. And just maybe also a short commercial. These were just some of the examples we've already worked with. I would encourage you to go back and revisit some of the webinars that we already had when we talked pricing last week, a few weeks back when we talked about growth, a number of other examples that fits very well into the React, Rebound, and Reimagine, and really targeting where we see customers going.
And the just to continue that, the pack that we circulate after this will have even more case studies in it from Martin and myself.
Exactly. So now more case studies, at least one case study. I'm going to invite Kenneth to come back in Corona-like distance. Yes, clearly it's now to 1 meter, so we can do that. So Kenneth, first of all, thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure. I thought actually by opening just kind of where Jason ended up, how does this look for Baby and how have we kind of reacted and rebounded out of this crisis?
Yeah, well, first of all, you know, the reaction was to reassure the customers that we actually were open and that it was safe to shop in the shops and visit us through the Corona period. So I think that was the first step for us, reacting to the consumers, reassuring them that it was actually safe to go down to the stores and what kind of measurements have we put into place to come into the stores, but also, you know, what could we do in the digital space in terms of servicing our customers here.
Yeah. So I think maybe one question in mind, being a digital native company, what's your feeling? I mean, you see new generations or new parents coming up, always being at the younger audience. What do you feel has been, you know, particularly important to this group of shoppers?
Yeah, well, you can say being digital has been extremely important here. So that's mobile. We are 80% of our revenue is done on mobile, so the iOS system. So we've been on the forefront of that. But also what we have seen is that, you know, putting our DNA in the front and digitally wise in terms of advisory for these young parents. So being there to service them on chat, on email, on telephones. We have had video book and advisors for that. We have had bespoke services outside opening hours to make a safe environment for those who wanted to come down to the stores, but be there alone for health and safety issues.
it's always when you're a consultant, sometimes you view these three phases, right? There's the analysis phase, what do we need to do, understand the customer, then there's the design, and then there's the phase of excuses, meaning, we don't have the IT systems in place, we can't do this. So I know you've worked a lot with kind of fast forwarding solutions.
Yeah, we actually did that. So we decided really early on, the same day as the Denmark was on lockdown, that it needed to be a fail fast model for us. So within 2 days, we had a BabySan to go, which is a drive-in function. And in the first weeks of the COVID-19 period, we actually did 10% of our revenue in stores was done through drive-in. So people coming into the parking area had made an order through an email. It's very low tech, but it's about doing something. We saw that quite clearly on that. So an example of had we thought about that before Corona, that would have been a 6-12 months project, and we've probably gotten the same out of it.
Yeah. So I think when we talk about the digital natives, we gave a few examples where we see them moving ahead. What's your feeling? What you believe to be a differentiator, what now is becoming just expectations, hygiene of shopping? How do you see that in your business?
Yeah, I think what we see now from the hygiene factors, I think that the customers, the digital natives in particular, they have moved really fast from multi-channel or omni-channel just to channel. So what we're seeing now was that our customers just, I'm here, I want help. So we saw them, emailing us, calling us on the telephone. So we saw that they really wanted this advisory from us, and that just wanted in all kinds of channels. So for us, it was about shifting some of our staff from the physical stores and moving them into the digital space in terms of more people into chat, more people on the telephones, more people on video conference. So really moving this forward to the customers, and also, building the community. So what we did really fast was we made an agreement with a group of midwives, because that was closed down in Denmark. So what we did was we did a live talk show on a daily basis in April, and we had a huge response on that. Pregnant, being insecure, couldn't get to their midwife. Now they had this platform on Facebook, and they could ask questions, and we had certain topics up. So we really saw customers moving really fast into social, moving really fast into digital in terms of getting advice. So they still needed this advice from us and other channels as well.
And I think our feeling where you're also moving is that, you have your traditional channels, but I think especially this crisis and other times have shown that you kind of need to start with the customer and find out where they're spending their time. So I know you've done a lot also to kind of expand your channels, look into Facebook and kind of integrate these things into your business model.
Yeah, absolutely. So we saw very fast that they moved a lot into social. So social became our #1 driver for traffic into the web shop, which we normally don't see. So we saw a lot of time going into Facebook. So we decided early on to use Facebook as a media, both on local for the stores, to give local information on the stores, to do live shopping, to do these live talk shows, to do auctions, and all kinds of information going into Facebook, and really connect with the community around being pregnant and try to take that position in the market quite successfully, I would say.
Yeah. So I have a few questions in a minute, which is probably going to be more about how can we then reinvent ourselves, and what would be your advice? But I think at least for the listeners out there who promised just to be on half an hour, I'm just going to wrap up a little bit, and then Jason, Kenneth, and I will be available for continued talk and questions. So again, please just putting questions in the chat as we go along. But just, I think very quickly, just what we've talked about right now, and the whole element of this is we need to kind of adapt into this, if we call it digital, or just the new customer being more digital. And I think you as retailers really need to pay attention to this individual experience, the retail environment. And as Jason talked about, these radically digital services that we need to kind of go out and win customers. So I think my first advice before handing over to you, Jason, to kind of wrap that part up is, I think we need to move from this demographic segmentation that we have of people. Maybe even you have a value base, you know where your customers spend money, but start caring about the needs and the behaviors, and understanding more about that as we change our value proposition. So I think that would be one model I would clearly advise for you to start working on tomorrow. And then Jason, I'll leave it for the readiness test on your side.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So like I said, when I showed the React, Rebound, Reimagine framework earlier, I said that we would give you a little bit of a checklist, a little bit of a tool to take with you. And this is it here. It'll be in the pack that gets sent out to you later on. And it's a number of statements that you can rate your organization on from a scale of 0 to 5 points, 0 being that you're not at all ready to be able to do that, and 5 being that you're completely there. And when you add up your score, you should be able to give yourself a bit of a rating, a bit of an indication as to how ready to meet these digital natives and how ready you are to be radically digital. And you know, any place where there might be some challenges where you'd want to be looking to make some improvements and potentially get some help, get some advice, etc.
Thank you, Jason. So I think with that in mind, for those of you kind of dialing out now, thank you again for being on. For those of you who want to stay on and pose questions, I think we're going to move a little bit back to that. I'm going to kick it off again with you, Kenneth. So now we talked about kind of the instant reaction, right?
Yeah.
Picking up at the driving lot, right? The rebound. But if you look at the reimagine, I mean, what's going on in your mind, and what do you think going on in the mind of many of the other retailers?
Yeah, well, definitely, I think we have seen a seismic shift in the consumer behavior. So I think from our business, we've been catapulted maybe 2 or 3 years ahead in terms of digital sales compared to the physical sales, and that's not going to change. So I think in our minds, it's how do we now refine, how do we distill these digital initiatives we have done on a very low tech base, and how do we get them into the future, be more embedded into the business, and more seamless experience for the customers, as we will see customers expecting much more from a digital point of view. This also goes into customer service. We have seen this quite dramatic change in how much advising we can do on chat, telephone, video conference, and how prepared our customer actually are in, you know, just grasping these new digital opportunities and getting in touch with us as a retailer.
And I know also from earlier questions, we're just going to do one more question. So please put in your questions. We'll get to them. I know you kind of, you know, from what you wanted to achieve and how you wanted to move forward, that you also had to reprioritize kind of your IT stack, moving different things up front.
Yeah.
So what was your thinking into that, and what kind of changes did you needed to do to kind of fast forward the right things?
Well, first of all, I think we have some background noise here. Well, first of all, you know, we had a lot of ideas about, you know, putting more of the omnichannel part into the front of the business, about click and collect, you pick it up in the stores within 2 hours. That of course became not that relevant because people didn't really want to visit the stores. So what we looked at was, well, how can we push our DNA in the front of the business from a digital point of view? And I think that was the key change in our minds, is that we actually make use of much more low-tech technologies in terms of interacting with our customers through Facebook, through Instagram, through email, through telephone, through chat, through the website, and then pushing that out to the customers, more of a pull than a push towards the customers.
Yeah. And I think, Jace, maybe also on your side, the experience with us too, you know, being radical digital, getting ready for what's coming out there. I mean, what are the conversation that's kind of taking place at your end? What do you feel companies are moving ahead, and how do you feel their ability to prioritize making sure that they take the relevant actions?
Well, I think, you know, one of the things, Kenneth, that you said that was great, that we're seeing in a lot of places, is organizations being willing to go low tech and try something out, try the plug and play type of platforms that I mentioned earlier, take an order by email that you would have been a 6-month type of project before. Kenneth, I mean, I'm going to put a question sort of back to you, which is that, you know, sometimes when organizations are faced with a low-tech solution, like taking an order via email, that can make people inside the company get very nervous. Oh, is email on brand for us? Oh, can our email servers deal with it? There's technology questions. How did you guys approach those types of things, which you know, traditionally would have turned, those types of issues that would have traditionally turned this into a 6-month, 12-month project, to be able to do that overnight?
Yeah, I think the key question, or the key answer to that, is when you drop 40% overnight in terms of revenue, you really don't have the time to ask those kind of questions. So it's actually about reacting, and I think that's really the key thing here. You need to do, and then you need to deal with the problems as they occur to you. So you need to do it as good as you can, but even doing 50% right, you know, will give you something. Apart from doing nothing, will give you nothing. So I think that was actually how we handled that. Saying, okay, we need to do this. We need to, you know, spend 2 hours thinking this as much through as we can, and then execute, and then we'll have to see what happens. And you know, what happens with most of these initiatives was that customers reacted extremely positive. You know, as we said with the pickup in the parking lot, 10% of the revenue in 2 weeks was done by this. You know, people picking up orders more than 10,000 Danish crowns in value in the parking area, paying by mobile pay. You think we would have, you know, we would have organized ourselves to death before. Now we're just forced to do it.
Yeah. We've got a question that's just come in here, which is anonymous, but I'll read it out. What advice would Us2 give to a bricks and mortar retail operation looking to accelerate digital due to COVID-19? Are there any quick wins you would highlight? I think you know, one of the things would be to look to what I was just saying and what Kenneth's been talking about. You know, don't plan yourself to death. Get in and try something. Be willing to fail fast and learn quickly. And also look at what technology is there. Look at what infrastructure is there. What can you use and reimagine, repurpose very, very quickly. Even if it's not 100% solution, if it's helping stave off that 40% drop in revenue, if it's helping you stay open and keep in touch with your customers, those are the things to try quickly.
Yeah, and I think just echoing, I think there's a misconception, maybe less in retail, but I still, the idea of prototyping, you know, we want to do it, but we really don't want to do it. We really want to polish and get ready because we don't want to disappoint customers. I think the element of simply daring to go out, I think if you are honest and choosing, I'm trying to improve something for you as my customer, and simply just dare to try it out.
Yeah. No, I fully.
I think also, sorry, I mean, another thing that we've seen, certainly in the UK, and I believe it's happening internationally as well, is retailers going, okay, we're going to make this happen in 10, 20, 100 of our outlets. Even if we can't do it everywhere on day one, we're going to do what we can in the key places to keep trading, to keep things going. You know, we're seeing places where companies where they're offering core services via their call centers, even though they can't do everything. And I think it is really a matter of being able to say, we're going to try something different and just start doing it the next day. Sorry, I cut you off, Kenneth.
I think another question, and that's maybe, I see we have a lot of wholesalers, maybe that's where it comes from. So as a wholesaler, how can we do more to technically enable you as retailers? So maybe if you had a desire to look back at your product owners and your wholesalers and pushing it, how can they help you? You know, what would be your request or wish for them?
Yeah, I think definitely that's the discussions we have had with a lot of our suppliers who would be wholesalers to us, is that we need to dare to move closer, and we are seeing that with some of our key partners now. It is the time to step closer. We need to understand how can we minimize, the networking capital between us. How can we increase sales? How can we help each other, driving this mutual business between us to get a bigger piece of the cake. And I think this is absolutely one of the things that needs to come out of this this pandemic, this crisis or recession we'll be going into, is we need to step a step closer to each other with our key partners. They're risking a little on both parts on that. I think that's absolutely critical moving forward.
I think also the wholesale point as well is really interesting, because another trend that we've seen, which shows a lot of innovation and reimagination, as we've said in our framework, is wholesalers reimagining themselves as going direct to consumer, which is a big opportunity for them, but potentially a threat for traditional retailers. So, within days, there were restaurant supply wholesalers supplying food direct to the public, which they'd never done before, but by swiftly changing things on their website, and maybe they couldn't offer a whole catalog, but they were able to say, here's a box of Italian ingredients, here's a box of Indian ingredients, and we can get that to you when grocery delivery slots were in very small supply, and people were very, very worried about how they were going to get food. That was becoming a big business opportunity for them quite quickly.
Yeah. So I think also a question for you, Kenneth, right? So we're talking about, of course, actions and what to do and how to be kind of digital ready, but how would you, what's your thinking and what's your advice for how do we get under the skin of what it is that they really want? How do we get under the skin to make sure that we stay relevant in what we do, the actions, the products, and definitely the services that we kind of explore out there, and maybe with a twist of saying, it's not always, the full-time worker facing the customers as we meet them. So what would be your advice on this?
Well, first of all, talk to your customers. Go out to, if you have the stores, go into the stores. What are they looking for? And then go out with the fail fast mentality once more. So try just to do the initiatives, get the feedback real time. are they responding to this before you go into any investments or anything else? So I think there'll be a lot more fail fast or minimal viable product strategies coming into the future on this, and a lot more, you can say, white label solutions or low tech solutions that you can tap into quite fast. And I think we have seen that quite a lot as well, you know, with local businesses tapping into an app, combining a lot of local businesses. And I think we'll see a lot of that in the future, also moving upstream to the larger companies such as us.
We've had another question just come in the chat, which is, what is the influence of the pandemic on e-commerce versus physical shopping? What do you believe will pan out as the long-term consequences?
Yeah, so I can give the consultant answer, and you can kind of validate it. That was completely off, at least as a beginning. I think there's a big question right now, as we talked about, online significantly up, you know, for some, you know, multiple by 4. But I truly believe still in the question of the physical retail and the role that these two things still need to play out a role. I truly believe there is a room for pure players, but I think the winners will be the ones who manages to combine, not playing physical as it is today, but playing physical in a different role, maybe playing around with different kind of ways of working. But I think these two needs to go together. And I think the ones who manage to balance this, recognize the customer, move it across channels would be the winners.
Yeah, no, I fully agree on that, Martin. I think that the omnichannel players will be the winners in this, and there will be room for the physical stores. Obviously, what we have seen in a very short span of time, you know, we moved from a 17% share of e-commerce to 25%, which we projected would be in 2025, we will be at 25%. And we don't predict this to go down again to 17 or 18 or 20% of sales. And of course, some of this is due to lost sales in the physical stores. So, but I think the role of the physical store, we've been talking a lot about this over the last couple of years, you know, both the seamless shopping, the more showroom, etc. I think what we'll see now is that this will move extremely fast. And then we'll see customers reacting very positive to this and be ready to go into a store without having to get the product back home instantly, but be delivered same night or the day after into their homes. I think we'll see some of these concepts really taking off now. And it's definitely some of the things we're looking into as a retailer. Also because if we look into the future, we have this bespoke services where you can book an advisor. More than 10,000 people do that on an annual basis. So we're looking into now, well, could a Baby Sam store be on the first floor, on the second floor? Would you be greeted at a reception? You would come in, you would have your designated advisor. You'll spend this bespoke service in 1-2 hours. You'll go home, it'll be delivered, maybe white glove. It'll be all unwrapped for you. You don't have the cardboard boxes, anything maybe done, you know, in a nice way. And I think this is what retail will turn into for our business in the next couple of years. And this has been fast-tracked extremely over the last 10 weeks.
I think this fast tracking, Jason, that's exactly the point. I mean, you're working with kind of tapping in, finding solutions, getting these business digital ready. So I'm hoping you have a take on this as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything that you guys said is absolutely right. I think what I would add is that on a sort of behavioral level, that we might see some changes with shoppers. So one of those being people questioning what they go to a shop for and what they don't. So people saying, wait a minute, why do I go to a drugstore where there's potentially loads of sick people to buy the same shampoo, the same toiletries, the same nappies for my child, when actually they can get brought to me and I can save time and have time with my family, or spend time shopping for things that I do really want to go and look at and examine in showroom, in store. I think that's also going to lead us down a road of more subscriptions. You see lots and lots of these subscription products out there that people are now saying, actually, wait a minute, I'm very happy for you to send me my razors and shaving cream, because why do I want to spend a half an hour going to a store for that, especially if there's going to be sick people in it? And the other thing I think we're going to see change is who goes shopping. I think, you know, like we said, the idea of digital natives and non-digital natives is going away. That was the big point you were making, Martin, right? So people, you know, perhaps in my parents' generation, who still went to the grocery store because going to the grocery store is the way you get food, are now going to be converting and saying, wait, why was I doing that? You know, I'm just thinking realistically about my parents. They're in their 70s. There's really no reason for them to be pushing a heavy shopping cart around now. And they're just discovering that. So I think the population we see in the stores will be different, and the reason they're there is going to be different. And that's something that we're all going to have to be adapting to.
And I think one of the consequences, and maybe you can relate to that also, Kennedy, I think, and that goes from the store floor, I think, to the top floor, but let's just start at the store floor being, we need to stop seeing ourselves only as a store employee. I think if these channels truly needs to merge, and if we truly need to do that, we need to train our people in understanding and how to bridge. You need to be able to make an online basket. You need to be able, the customers, to create an online basket to come into the store, knowing what he wants to see. So I think, how do you work with your employees to kind of move that ahead?
Yeah, well, that's been one of the big challenges, I think, over the last couple of years, is moving store employees from just thinking about the stores alone to actually thinking about the customers. And I think we turned out 5 years ago with a strategy in 2020 to have a customer P&L, being able to see the customers as a full P&L and not as a store or an online P&L. I think that will be a 2021 now. Before that actually happens, but I think it's been an important mentally shift in our employees' understanding of this over the last couple of years, as they have been seeing technology progress, and that we're actually able to see more and more down on a customer level. So I think this is daily hard work to get your store employees to understand that there's a P&L outside the store that is helping paying their rent, helping paying their salaries, but I think we'll be a couple of years from that just now.
But I think that data point, I mean, you get what you measure. And I think if you're not managed to kind of have the data point of saying, this is my customer P&L, I can track that. So I think we still need to measure channel P&L, but I think it needs to come second to the customer P&L as we move along. And then, even though I came up with a distinction and maybe just a provocative pushback for the audience, is that, digital native, digital immigrants, I think there are too many digital immigrants at the head offices, not being able to kind of see the behavior and what's needed. So as you do change and as we do move forward into this thing, I would only encourage that as you run a process, remember to bring some digital native into the thinking of how to serve the digital native.
I fully agree. I have a great benefit of having a teenager at home, because that kind of gives me, where are they moving? They're moving really fast.
One of the things that we talk about when we talk about companies changing this way is this idea of make together, change together, learn together. And I think, Martin, what you were saying there, and especially Kenneth, what you were saying there about, this helps engage the people on the shop floor with understanding that there's other P&Ls there. When you're talking about people being able to do a click and collect service that they weren't doing the day before, but learning how to do that quickly. I think when you're making these services together, everybody's learning together, and then that change starts to happen quite naturally all the way through the organization, especially if you involve everyone at every level. Another question's come through. Should we take that, Martin?
Yeah, go ahead.
So this is one from Karen. Is there any situation where you can see that this experimentation and fast changes has done more harm than good for brands? I mean, I've certainly heard of some places where brands have tried things and it hasn't worked. I'm not having anything come to mind that's a complete.
I think maybe actually us being resident kind of come up with an answer is maybe just a proof point of saying, no, get started, get out there and prototype. But I think as we talked about in our early webinars, be honest when you do it, be true to what it is that you're trying to do. I think for someone we do see, again, back to wholesale and some of you having franchises out there, I think where I've seen it fail mostly is if you don't kind of manage to broaden this out. Across your different touch points into your franchisees. I mean, you run a campaign to improve something, but you forgot to inform your partners or your stores. I think that's when it fails.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's one of the things we didn't touch base on. I think the internal communication throughout this period has been massive. And luckily, we've had an app where we can contact all employees via push messages. And that's been a great help for us in getting the message through. Because, of course, when you do a lot of these things really fast, you need to get 300 people in 30 stores to be able to understand what is a Babysam to go drive-through or drive-in services. How is that actually working? And then, of course, accepting as a company, sometimes you make a wrong turn, or sometimes it fails, apologize to the customers, explain why it failed, and then try to correct this later on.
I think maybe one answer would be, but that's maybe more of a failed prototype than actually a damage to the brand. That is, as we launch the prototypes, we need to make sure that we've done everything to kind of, have it simulate what it's intended to, the right marketing, the right sale. And then I think this element, when we do digital, the assisted first usage. I mean, you get out, you want to have them to try something new, but if they don't grasp the intention of what it is we are trying to do, it'll be a failed prototype. And so in that extent, it'll be wasted time.
Exactly. Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the things.
So with that in mind, if there's one more question, feel free to post that. I'm just going to have a look for the next 10 or 20 seconds if that is coming in. But again, as Jason said, all of this material, it will be available out there. There will be a lot more case studies within the material to share. You can download and listen to this one more time. It wasn't completely off, and you wanted to capture a few points. And you are more than welcome to reach out to us if you have any questions and you have the need to discuss any further. So I think, I don't know what that was, but maybe that was me telling to kind of close up. But nevertheless, I think we've talked a little bit about the new market dynamics very shortly, a little bit about the DNA, just to give you a feeling. And again, you will find a few more data points in the material. What characterizes the new? Jason, you talked about, how do we react? How do we rebound? I think as you talk, we just in the phase of saying, okay, now this rebound for some needs to be a reinvention. We really need to think about how to be relevant. I think you've been on the journey, Kenneth. You kind of got thrown into it with no choice.
Yeah.
Everybody did.
Everybody did. But I think also, and I think that's the good side of the conversations, you took actions. You actually dared to prototype. And I think you managed to convert, again, I don't remember the exact number, but 30 to 40% of your lost sales very fast to an online sales by actually taking action.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, so we rebounded really strong in April from being 40% down to only being 3% down, and actually maybe being 7% up, but on traffic being 30% down throughout April and May.
Yeah. So I think, thank you again for joining. It's been a pleasure to have you on this Us Two Implement BabySam webinar for the day. Any last words, Jason, on your side?
No, just thank you very much for everybody's time, and please get in touch with myself or Martin if you have any questions after this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us as well.